In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a project that was sent to us by one of our customers, brand new to EasyStone, wanting to figure out how to do a design. And let's go ahead and import this JPEG. And this is a really, really small piece of clip art. And what we're going to focus on is the Cowgirl up text. So the first thing we have to do is let's go into wireframe for a moment just so we can see this. Now you can see here the black line is the boundary of the bitmap. And so if we take this bitmap and just resize it here, see this white space around the text? Um, we're not going to get a true scale of the image if we just come up here and reset this to 9 inches because we have all this extra white space on either side of the design. So what we do here is we have a special tool here in EasyStone on the Specialty tab where we can choose the Set Size option, and then we can click right on the edge of the C, right on the edge of the P, and we have a dialog box now. You can see that the actual size is 7 3/4 inches. So that's how much that white space took up. So we're going to make it 9.5 inches. And now we know that the design is 9.5 inches wide. I think we can go ahead and stay here in wireframe mode, but we'll switch back over here to enhance mode, and we're going to lock down our image. I'm going to set my stone color. Let's just use hot pink so it'll show up really good. And then we're going to set our stone size to SS10, and we're going to click on the drop stone and drop one single stone. Now here's the thing. You'll find that my design process is a lot different than you probably will see demonstrated elsewhere. Almost 90% of the time, I'm going to start with a bitmap. Even when I'm given vector artwork, I almost always convert it to a bitmap before actually stoning it. And that's like really totally backwards way of working most typically. But it's what I found that works best for me. And once you see the design process that I use, um, I think you'll find that it's pretty helpful. And also because most of the time, the artwork that we get is in bitmap format. So if we don't have to vectorize, take advantage of some of the tools here in EasyStone that makes the design process easier and not have to vectorize, it's just one less step for us when we do our design work. So this whole design begins with this tiny little dot. So here's what we're going to do. Let me just show you how this works. We're going to come in here. So I'm just going to place this dot. We're going to go to the stone fill tab and we're going to hit up. Then we're going to select these 3 dots and hit over. And then we're going to take that center dot and we'll just keep pushing this up button just like so. Maybe we'll go one more. And then we'll go over and we'll select these dots and come over this way. Now here's a point that I'd like to make. You can see that these dots at the top are slightly larger than the actual original artwork. And this is one of the reasons why I like to not use vector artwork. Because if we had vector artwork, what the software would do if we use the vector artwork to stone it, what the software would do is it would say, okay, it's very literal. And so this top edge, what would happen is this top edge would come right to there. It would delete one stone, and then it would take the remaining stones here and it would space them out. So these stones might be one particular, the gap, but then the gap between these stones is greater. Um, and I like to have all of my gaps all spot on if I can as far as the spacing goes. So it's just a different way of working. It's what I've gotten used to, so it's what I stick with. All right, so let me show you. So now that we have this, we have the basis for all of our letters. So we'll just make a copy of it. So I just drag it with my left mouse. I'm holding my shift key, and what that does is it gives a straight horizontal movement. And then I'm going to take these 3 stones and I'm going to offset, and this stone offset twice. So now I have my L, and let's see, what do we want to do next? Well, why don't we do our R next? So here's our R, And then we're going to take this and we're going to move it over and hold down the Alt Control, and that will nudge half a distance. So you can see how we get that. And then up here, I'm just going to, so I just hand place that one, and then I'm going to come up, and tell you what, we're going to come over. And in this case, I'm going to move this stone to the right edge. So you see what I did there? Now do the same thing here. Let's move this one all the way over. I'll leave it right there. And this one I'll push back to here, so I'll have to delete one of these. And then we'll do Shift P, so that will space those out. You're not going to always be able to keep your spacing perfect, but you know, as you go through and design, you have to make some design choices there. We'll go ahead and delete one stone out of there, and we'll go V for vertical. And that's kind of what we want to do. Now I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to modify it to get it to look like I want it to look. So I'm going to try, and I may still come back in and even modify it further, but we're going to try it just like that. All right, so let's go ahead and take this and move it over. Now this right here, I'm going to use my Easy Guide tool and just add a vertical guideline there. And we're going to add a horizontal one. And then we're going to take the center of this and snap it right to the intersection. And then we'll go ahead and come back over here. And I'm going to take this stone, this stone, and this stone, and this one, and hit V for vertical. And that will be, so now sometimes what's helpful too is if we take these stones off our bitmap and throw them behind a weed box, and then we can really take a look at it and say, hey, do I like this letter R or do I not like the letter R? And I think the letter R actually looks just fine. So I think we'll just leave it just the way it is. So now that we have our R, well, then we also have our P. So we could just delete the part of our R that we don't need. And there's our letter P. All right, so now our U is going to be kind of like our G. Our G is going to be kind of like our C, and our C is going to be kind of like our O. So what we'll start with is the O here. So I'm going to pull over one stone for the top, one stone for the bottom. I'm going to select both of them and line them up, hit L on my keyboard, and I'm going to go ahead and offset it up and up just like so. And because this is symmetrical, I'm only going to deal with one. Actually, I'm only going to deal with the bottom, and then we'll flip it for the top. So what do we want to do here? Well, I think I'm going to just nudge one stone over, select them both, hit Control Alt, and that will nudge those over. Then I'm going to go ahead and nudge these over. And let's see here. I'm actually going to push this a little bit more. Maybe we'll do something like that. I have to, I just play around with it a little bit because there's no real rule book of what we're going to do here. So I'm going to place these over a little bit. Pull these over here a little bit. And then figure out what I want to do here. So we'll just maneuver some things around. Get this like I want it. Bring these down. And then I'm going to set those maybe as SS6s. Something like that. You can kind of play around with it, decide if you want to do it that way. Maybe I don't want to do it that way. Maybe I'll go ahead and just have it just be flat right there. All right, so now that I kind of have that in place, then what I would do is just come over here, make a copy, flip it, and then grab that center stone and drop it right there. So then I can take all of these stones, V for vertical. You can see the spacing's too close. So we'll select those, V for vertical again. That spacing is going to get the job done. So we'll do V for vertical. Now that spacing is taken care of. So now that our O is done, we can copy it over here for our C. Delete the stones we don't need. Now that the C is done, we can bring that over for our G. And I'm just going to nudge it up and over. And that takes care of the G. And then we'll bring over our O again for the U. So we'll delete the part that we don't need. And we'll go ahead and nudge this up. We want to make sure that that is the same height, which it is. And then we'll go ahead and select these and nudge them over one in that direction. And then we're just going to copy all of these right over to here. Now, we do have to, I'm going to modify our U a little bit because these are just a little bit too close together. So we're going to just make a small adjustment to take care of that. It's minor, but I think it needs just a little bit of adjustment there. So then we can just kind of take these stones, H for horizontal, H for horizontal, okay? And I just think that it'll make just a little bit better result. All right, so now we kind of have to do the same thing with our W here. So what we're going to do here is pretty much the same thing. Let's go ahead and grab, we already have these stones already, so let's go ahead and grab them and drop one right there. And then we'll give sufficient space where we think we need it. And then I want to create the exact same thing on the other side. So here's what we do. We select that plus the center pivot stone. Hold our control key down. That flips it. And then we'll pick up from center stone to center stone. So that takes care of the spacing across the top for our W. Now we need to do something similar to the bottom. So we're going to grab, we already have these stones again. So let's grab these, this lot of stones, place it, and we want the exact same placement. So pick that pivot stone, pivot it over. Now we have the exact same placement. So we're going to take this stone and this stone, shift add stones. Now you see this weird happening. That's because stones have been mirrored and flipped and carried on. So we'll just flip it. Same thing here, shift add stones, select the end stone, flip it. All right. Now for this, we're actually going to take both of these, delete the stone paths, and we're going to nudge this stone over and nudge this stone over. And then we're going to take this and this, shift add stones, and this and this, shift add stones. We have to flip it, that stone. You can see there. We're going to select everything. We're going to delete our stone paths. We have an intersecting stone here, so select them both. Go to the editing tab and delete overlaps. And that takes care of that. So we've spent about 10 minutes or so on this text, but the end result, let's go ahead and throw a weed box behind it. You can see we have a nice, perfect result. It looks really good, really uniform. And that is our design approach. Now on the W here, you can make a decision, a judgment call on the W. Let's go ahead and we could, if we wanted to, we could actually take this and we'll hit Control Alt and nudge it over so that this is centered. If we like that look better, it's a minor change, but you can see the original design. If we look at the original, you can see how that did not overlap. You can see it just kind of all comes down at an angle. But those are kind of little things that I clue in on that I just think look a little bit better. So you can see we have a real nice Cowgirl design um, for this barrel racing design. So that gives you an idea of how we tackle certain design projects. It's a bit more of a quote-unquote manual process, but I think the end result speaks for itself. You get it because we're scrutinizing every single stone. We wind up with a nice uniform looking result. So I hope that gives you a little bit better understanding of how to tackle some of these different design challenges.